Hello everyone, my name is Randy Beckford. I am currently a student at BYU Idaho, currently pursuing a degree online. So this is my final presentation for my class Object-Oriented Programming. And here I have the description for this final presentation. So the first thing I'm going to go over is explaining the difference between static class variables and class non-static instances variable. Give examples of code showing how to reference and call a static function versus a non-static function. Demonstrate through examples from your program your understanding of when to use an array versus an array list versus an enum. Demonstrate through examples of code that you have written for one of your individual assignments your understanding of how to use a basic statement and an index to go through and access each element stored in an array or array list. Demonstrate through examples of code that you have written for one of your individual assignments your understanding of how to throw, propagate, and catch custom runtime errors in your program. Explain when and why a character stream class should be used versus a byte stream class read and write data to a file. Walk through an example of your code that you have written for one of your individual assignments and demonstrate your understanding of how to write a character data to an external file. Okay, so the other two demonstrate fully implemented game, which I will do at the end of this presentation. Professional and presentational skills is something I hope I can do well at. Okay, so first thing first, we've learned that static members are class level and can be accessed directly without any instance, but in this presentation I will be going over non-static as well. So when using non-static method for calling, we must use an object to access it directly. So in this instance, let me get to this real quick. Show an example. So yeah, here. If we look at this, this is an example of non-static, and in non-static you have to use object to, and in this case this would be the object here, object to access it. So you have to create this object, then new, to create a new object so it's able to read in the system. And if we go to hunting view, you can see that though we extend the view, it won't inherit all of those attributes because it is non-static. Versus if we look at a static view here, you'll see that you'll be able to access all the files as it is because it is static. So we can access it without creating an object. And these are my two examples for static and non-static. So now I will get into my array. So here in player I have an array. So we have I have player as an array here because all we need from the player is their name. And then we have for party members we have an array list because we're hoping to get more than one information from them. And we use array and array list for these because these are changeable. They're changeable, and so they're never going to be the same as many people will be playing the game at many different times, many different people. So as opposed to an enum, as we have here in our item type for our inventory items, these items never change, and so that's the reason why we use an enum for these, because these won't change. If these should change, the game would crash. If that's the right word to use for it, the game would probably crash because you cannot access some of the item that is necessary for the game to be played. So the next thing is how we access an array, and in this case we use a for loop to loop through an array. In this example, we'd use for int I equals 0. I is less than or equal to location dot length minus 1, and then you add I plus plus. So map plus equal new line plus location, and you get name and mile maker. So this exact one is for the map, and so pretty much you have to use a for loop to loop through your program through your array list. That is, you have to use a for loop so you can set your values to where you want them to be. Then you can have it loop through it, and you set your parameters as to how far it can go. So that's how I access items from my array list. Let me see what's next on my list that I need to accomplish this time. Okay, so demonstrate through example of a code that you have written for one of your individual assignments your understanding of how to throw, propagate, and catch custom runtime errors. Alright, so let's get back to the program. So we have to have throw, catch, and runtime error propagated because you want the game to understand how to handle errors, and this also helps with debugging. So this is our runtime error file. Okay, so we propagate this by, if we should look at this at the end here, we had to added an exception for it. So without the exception added to these files, you won't be able to access the throw. So here it give us throw new map exception, and then it give what the exception is. You need a row or column for this map. So find one of my other files that has the throw in it. Okay, so this is the example of the try catch. So here we have try, and the game control that create new game, Oregon Trail game that get player, and then you're trying to catch this. The map control exception, E. You always have to give it a name. We always use E. And then we have here the catch error view, which I just showed you error view right here. That display this get class, so you get the class, and get name, and get the message as well, which all of these things are outlined in, if we were to look at the control, the game menu control. You would see sorry, not game menu control, it should be game main menu control. All these files here. Yeah, here we have all the exceptions. Anyway, moving on. So yeah, that's pretty much how we use their catch throw. So we have a throwable E here, and then we can catch our error display and get message. So whatever the error may be, when you try to start a new game, it will go through all this, and if all the criteria is not met, it will give you an error based on the try catch. Okay, so the next the next part of this program that we will look at is how to print. Let's see from my file directly. Okay, explain when and why character stream class should be used versus bit stream. So character stream, what that does, it pretty much the information, it will go through it in characters instead of individually, as opposed to byte stream, it does it bit by bit. So I had an example here of byte stream, like our buffer reader here. This is an example of a byte stream, so it goes through bit by bit. And if we look at our map control, we can see here that this is our character stream. So here we have our print writer, new print writer file path, print line, print writer, print line, and then we set the various things that we want it to go through at the same time, instead of just doing it one by one, like we do a line for location name, do another one for miles maker, another one for visited. So pretty much this is how we go through the print writer aspect of this program or game, and why we use character versus bit stream. The next one says, walk through an example of a code that you have written for one of your individual assignments to demonstrate your understanding of how to write a character data to an external file. Okay, so this one, I know the time goes by so quick, so I'm gonna have to run the game for this one. Down here, run. Okay. Rename. I'm gonna have to try to go through this real quick. And new game. One banker. Just gonna give it some fictitious name. Okay, so now that we have all these information here, so what we want to do is print. For example, we want to do print game or print party members. So we could just input 13. It's going to ask for a file path for where we want to print it. So here, we're going to open our documents. My computer is a little slow. Okay, so here we go to, from here we go to documents. We go to NetBeans projects, CIT 260 public, Oregon Trail game, and then this is essentially the path that we want it to be, So we just Control C, copy all of that. Then we go back to the game and we input the file path / and then we could put final P and enter. Alright, so here, if we go back to here, we'll see a file for final P. You can double tap that. Choose what you want to open it with. Just use WordPad. And there you have it. It prints the game information. And so you can see that this is a fully functional game. You just push 1 to continue on trail. And then it will give you a runtime showing you like the weather is warm, good, pace steady. You can per se change pace 4 to 2 strenuous, and then